I'm here today to deliver the preachings and teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that the old wicked world of the white man is going out and the new world of freedom, justice, and equality of the black man is coming in. Before we get into our subject matter, I'd like to open up in the name of Allah and the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi who was to come and has come, to restore us who are lost from our own, the kingdom of Islam, and to destroy those who have destroyed us. Assalamu alaikum. Ameen. My name is Brother Minister YaSin Allah again, and I'm here to deliver the preachings and teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that the old wicked world of the white man is going out, the new world of freedom, justice, and equality of the black man is going in. And in the old world going out is really the black man. We're just kind of like spectators, if you will. Not necessarily spectators, but we really don't even have a choice in the matter. It's all been predicted, it's all been prophesied, and we see the white race's world, America in particular, self-destructing. And that's our subject matter. Our subject matter today is Gog and Magog. G-O-G, Gog, and Magog is M-A-G-O-G. And these are two very strange names, very obscure names, and they're found in both the Bible and the Qur'an. And both of these names, these terms, this subject is referring to what's going on today. Gog represents the Russian people, Europeans, Caucasians, and Magog represents the American white people as well as Western Europeans. And the reason why we chose this subject matter is because of what's going on in the news today, what's going on in the country. Since the election of Donald Trump, President of the United States, shocked the world. I think he even shocked himself. We've been hearing a lot about Russia. Has Russia been involved? Did it manipulate the 2016 presidential election? Is Trump some kind of Russian spy? Is he influenced by the Russians? Is he down with the Russians? The answers to these questions really haven't been proven 100%. Nonetheless, we can see how confused this nation is. Hillary Clinton apparently had the election locked up, but yet she lost. What does that say about the Democrats? Are they weak, impotent, incompetent? Trump, look at him. He seems to be very uninformed about what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country. Is he really qualified to be president? What does that say about the people that voted for him, that put him in office? What type of insight or judge of character do they have? But all these things, all these shortcomings point to how America is a very confused place. And that's part of a chastisement or a prediction that will fall over the people. Mr. Muhammad wrote numerous articles about the confusion of, in particular, white America and the heads of state. And this is a perfect example. This election really shows how confused these people are. Nonetheless, they are in charge of us black people, and we cannot seem to get ourselves together, that we are actually somewhat confused ourselves. But our subject matter is Gog and Magog. And according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he wrote an article in 1972 called Muhammad, Freedom, Justice, and Equality. And he said the people of Russia are referred to in the Bible and the Quran as the Gogs. Other infidel people such as European and American white race are referred to by some of the scientists as being Magogs. So there you have it, plain and simple. He didn't elaborate or go into any other detail. Nonetheless, those are keys for us to figure the thing out. And we can start in the Bible, chapter 10, which some of the scholars call the Table of Nations. And specifically in chapter 10, it says that Noah had 3 sons, and their names were Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And the scholars have also determined that Ham represents the black nation, Shem represents the original Semite people, mixed race people of Asia Minor, and Japheth represents Caucasian people, Europeans. It's very simple, and again, most of the Bible scholars agree on that. There's really no great controversy about the breakdown of the human family in terms of racial identity. And alhamdulillah. So Japhet, let's concentrate on Japhet for a minute. Japhet again represents Caucasian people. And Japhet is the father of Magog. Now Magog, according to the scholars, represent Caucasian people. And specifically, Magog branched out as European people who confined to the European continent or Caucasus Mountains. They migrated toward Western Europe, Germany and places like that, Central Europe, even further, England, France, the Gauls, the Angles, the Saxons, and the Gogs migrated deep into what we now call Russia around Moscow. So, and are commonly referred to as Eastern European people. Now, nothing is good is said about Gog and Magog in either the Bible or the Quran. And in fact, we live in a world till this day, one of the great controversies about the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is that he taught us that the white man is the devil. And they shocked the world, and the world is still in shock. And, over the decades that Mr. Muhammad while he was with us, and since he departed, there's all types of explanations and denunciations as to whether the white man is the devil or not. But this is a perfect, Gog and Magog is a perfect example or a perfect proof that lends to the fact that the white man is in fact the devil, because when we read the Bible, Gog and Magog, number one, are associated with the devil, Satan, and nothing is good is said about him. So let's start at the Bible, book of Ezekiel, chapter 38. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Meshach, and this is chapter 38, verses 2 through 4. The scholars say Meshach is referring to Moscow, Russia. And say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, and I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, and will bring thee forth, and with all thy army, horses, horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So here you have Gog and Magog being associated with, number one, being against God, suffering a chastisement, hooks in their jaws, and having vast armies, great armies. So we can see that very clearly with both Russia and America. This is what they pride themselves on, is their military might. Now, in the book of Revelations, in chapter 20, goes into more details, gives us more information about Gog and Magog, namely that they are associated with Satan, the devil, or in fact, Satan, the devil themselves. Chapter 20, starting at verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed around the camp of the saints. And the beloved city, which is at the camp of the saints, is actually Mecca. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Now, this verse again, these verses are very important because, number one, it identifies Gog and Magog with being Satan or the devil. Number two, it says that they were released from a prison after serving 1,000 years. What does that mean? That means, according to the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, that when Prophet Muhammad and his followers established Islam in Asia Minor and North Africa and Spain and Persia, this caused Christianity or the white race to be pushed up into Europe, out of Asia Minor, and they were really stuck there bottled up in Europe for like 1,000 years, from the time of Prophet Muhammad and his followers until about 1492. They were allowed to deceive the nations of the earth. The white man got lies, wickedness spread out all over the world. Even now, the big thing in the news is fake news, which is really a way of them admitting that they are great liars and deceivers. This is what they do. They spread lies, they spread misinformation, disinformation, commonly now known as fake news. And ultimately, Gog and Magog will be cast into the lake of fire. What is the lake of fire? Is it some place, imaginary place in the earth, commonly known as hell, Hades? No. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that one day, we don't know when, but nonetheless that America will burn for 1,000 years, and that this will be the lake of fire. Now, going back to the white race, Gog and Magog being in prison for 1,000 years, again, this means that, and we should really go back to the beginning of a basic Caucasian or white people history, or the history of the white race. Remember, according to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the white race was grafted or made out of the black man. And we can find this in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us, the black man, make man, the white man, in our image and our likeness. And after he was made on the Isle of Pelon or Patmos in the Aegean Sea, the same Patmos that you find in the book of Revelations, they came back among the holy people in Arabia and started causing trouble by telling lies and causing the original black Arabs, the black people, the holy people, to fight and kill each other. And once it was found out that the Caucasians, Yaku's grafted race, was the rooted cause of the problem, we rounded them all up and exiled them into the caves and hillsides of Europe. That was 6,000 years ago. And their punishment was to remain in Europe, confined for 2,000 years, before we sent them a prophet by the name of Musa, commonly known as Moses. And when Moses came to them, he taught them how to master the original man, and all they first lessons of being somewhat civilized people, because they had went savage living in the caves and hillsides of Europe for 2,000 years. And once Moses taught them, they began to come out the caves as conquerors and warriors, and you can find them recorded in the history books as the Indo-Europeans, the Aryans, savages and barbarians. They really don't disguise or even hide who they really are and what role they played in history. And they became, conquerors of black people. They conquered all the black civilizations in Asia Minor. And this is where you get the Greek civilizations, the Assyrians, and all these, the Hittites, and all these type of names that we may see in the Bible or in ancient history books that really have no meaning or relevance to us. Nonetheless, that's their early history. And being allowed to come out of Europe, they spread wickedness and evil, murder, lies, robbery, rape, sexual perversions. But around the 7th century AD, Prophet Muhammad raised up and reestablished Islam in Asia Minor, in Spain, North Africa, and pushed the Caucasians, Gog and Magog, back into Europe, and they remained there for 1,000 years until Columbus in 1492 found a way to sail across the Atlantic. He was searching actually for India. Nonetheless, he opened up an avenue or a gateway for them to finally get out of Europe. And incidentally, this time when the Muslims had them bottled up in Europe, this is what the white historians sometimes call the Dark Ages, even though they're trying to get away from that name. The Dark Ages symbolize that they got kicked out of Asia, where the light is at, and they reverted, they regressed. And with the fall of the Roman Empire, they just started killing each other. You know, this is where you get some of these movies like the Game of Thrones, and even though it's somewhat fantasy, nonetheless, you know, it's based on them being to themselves in Europe and what they also call medieval times. Praise be to Allah. So now, Gog and Magog, they were allowed to come out of Europe, and specifically the Magogs, the Western Europeans, and by extension, the Americans, were allowed to colonize and conquer the Aboriginal people here, Native Americans, commonly known as Indians, here in North America, Mexico, and the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And they established this place as, you know, a wild, wicked place, but this made them expand in the world, and this, you know, made them great. This actually completed them conquering or dominating the world, as it says again in Genesis chapter 1, that they were allowed to have dominion over the world. So Gog and Magog is out, and they were loose. So this is what it means, that they were loosed out of their prison after 1,000 years. And it's a very important point in history. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and I'm going to paraphrase for a minute, being released from his prison after 1,000 years, meaning the white race, Christianity, was bottled up in Europe because the Muslims, Prophet Muhammad and his followers, controlled Asia Minor, Spain, and North Africa from around the 7th century, 700 AD until the beginning of the 20th century. And specifically, Mr. Muhammad said, quote, "This attack caused a setback on the devils for about 1,000 years. They overcame it after the discovery of the Western Hemisphere by Columbus." And we can find this in the article called "The Third Attack on the Beast for His Evil Attacks Against the Righteous" from the 1969 article. So, Gog and Magog, associated, or the devil, clearly pointed out in the book of Revelations and in Ezekiel that they are not the friends of God, they are not with God, they are against God, they are the enemies of God. Now, Allah in his Quran also teaches on Gog and Magog, and you can find them in chapter 18 of the Quran, as well as a verse in chapter 21. We're going to concentrate on chapter 18, which is entitled Al-Kahf, the cave. And that cave is referring to Europe, specifically the Caucasus Mountains. And the cave means is that when the white race was originally exiled into Europe, that they didn't know how to build houses for themselves, so they lived in trees, they lived in caves, they lived in caves, they lived in holes in the ground, and they degenerated to a very wretched state. Now, the Quran speaks about Gog and Magog starting around verse 94. And it says, "O Dur Canaan, Gog and Magog do mischief in the land. May we then pay thee tribute on condition that thou raise a barrier between us and them." Dur Canaan, according to some scholars, is referring to Darius I, the king of the Persian Empire. And this time period is around 500 BC. And we see that Dur Canaan is being asked to build a wall or barrier in the Caucasus Mountains. That was part of the Persian Empire in that day and time, to keep the wild, savage Caucasians, devils, from coming into Asia Minor. And this verse, the verses go on how he built a great wall with blocks of iron in the mountain passes of the Caucasus Mountains. And the verses go on that eventually, though, that Gog and Magog would come out. As it said, as we said earlier, they would get out of Europe. Columbus led them out and eventually conquer the world. And it says, "This is a mercy from thy Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes to pass, he will crumble it, and the promise of my Lord is ever true." The promise, again, is that they would conquer the world. They would have dominion or control of the world, and we all bear witness that the white man is controlling the world. And on that day, we shall let some of them surge against others, and the trumpet will be blown. Then we shall gather them all together. It says that they shall surge against each other. So this means the verses fast forward now to this day and time. Is that the white man is in control of the world. They have all the weapons. They have the nuclear bombs. They have all the money. But that's not enough for them. And that they will go after each other. And this brings us to our subject matter of what's going on with Russia and America. This is why we see the tension between the two, and as to whether Russia manipulated or was involved in Trump being elected, which is what some American politicians is calling an act of war, and obviously it's an act of war. But this only signifies how they are at each other's throats. They are great enemies of each other. Even though they are both Caucasian people, they are nonetheless enemies of each other. Now, where all this will lead, we don't know, but it is just another indication of the confused and dangerous times that we are living in, and the fulfillment of prophecy. That Gog and Magog are Caucasian people. They are godless people, even though they may profess to be followers of Jesus. We know from their ways and actions that they are far from Jesus and his teachings. And that they have made the world a very dangerous place, a very confused place. Just imagine, well, let me rephrase that. We see how confused white people are in terms of voting for Trump. We look at Trump as even though, he's a big-time businessman and made millions of dollars, billions of dollars, he owns properties around the world, we see that his intellect is really deficient, that he really is not well-versed or well-schooled or conversant in the subject matter of American domestic policy as well as American foreign policy. He's like an embarrassment to, white American people. And just think of the people that voted for him. Think of the type of presidential campaign, political campaign that he had, filled with, open race baiting. I mean, we all know it's about race, but, he made no pretense as to where he stands on racial matters, for instance. And now just think about the type of people, their mentality, their intellect that voted for him. So we see that America is a very confused place, a very dangerous place, and that there's really no place in it for us black people in America. Now that doesn't mean that we're not going to survive and thrive, but nonetheless, we're in a very precarious situation. And those of us that are followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, either directly or indirectly, we are not doing the things that we should be doing. And which even compounds the problem, because we were taught or raised in order to teach our people. And I'm going to close. In closing, I just again want to appeal to all the Muslims, especially those of us who got our Islam, our original Islam, our first Islam from the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, that we need to come together. We have to come together on common ground. We have more in common than we do that's not in common. Our differences are really petty, small, and based on various interpretations of what we were taught, what Islam is about. So, in closing, again, I just want to appeal to everyone, the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Number one, let's come together. Let the Nation of Islam under Minister Farrakhan, all the different Sunni Muslims group, whether you are, following the Sunnah, explicitly following the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, or whether you're a follower of Warif Deen Muhammad, whether you are New World, or whether you are part of the Nation of the Gods and Herbs. Let us all come together. Let us sit down and develop a strategy on what we have in common. We all black people. We all came here together. We all been suffering together. Let us come together in unity so we can move forward. Yes, this is the day of separation, but how much separation we going to have? The separation really signifies separating the white from black. Not that black people are going to be divided and fragmented into a million different pieces. You can't do nothing like this, but you can do something like this. And we know these basic lessons and things. So, in closing, I just want to thank everyone for spending a few minutes to listen to what I had to say. And we look forward to come back again and maybe impart something that you don't know in delivering the teachings of the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. So I'm going to close out in prayer. In the name of Allah and the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who was to come and has come, to restore us who are lost from our own, the kingdom of Islam, and to destroy us, to destroy those who have destroyed us. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.